E aí, Neko na área, sejam muito bem-vindos à segunda parte de Orpheus, joguinho maravilhoso. Como eu falei na gameplay passada, cara, tô curtindo muito. E essa aqui vai ser a segunda e última parte desse joguinho maravilhoso, cara. Membros aqui na tela, valeu de coração aí. Se alguém mais quiser se tornar membro, vocês estão ligados. O link se encontra na descrição junto com meus outros canais, inclusive o canal de live, Pixeira também na tela e outras formas de apoio ao canal do tio também aí na descriçãozinha. E bora de gameplay? Então, pera aí, hoje eu tô com o controle correto, tá? Peguei o controle do Xbox, que é o que eu mais gosto. Deixei do Switch de lado e bora continuar exatamente de onde a gente parou, pô. Não, foi aqui. Ah, foi aqui. Aqui é o final.
Will our courageous yet unfortunate hero drown in the depths of an inhospitable frozen sea? Will he thaw out in time to prevent Tull from detonating the bomb? Will the general holiday in Omsk next year? Or Tomsk? Or perhaps both? What exactly is the difference between a mammoth and a hairy elephant? All of these questions and more should almost certainly be answered in the next exciting episode of Little Orpheus!
Ele pronuncia Little. Certo. Bora lá, velho. Agora estamos no lugar certo. Sob as ondas de Yóbica. Mole. Nossa, meu peru, mano. Sob as ondas de Yóbica. Beleza, velho. Depois vai ter que ir ali. Bora, depois nós vamos ter um desertinho gostoso pra jogar. Interessante.
I thought I was doomed. But a miraculous thing happened, General. I could breathe.
It
must have been the helmet that was jammed onto my head. It was a strange and remarkable thing.
Some might almost say beyond belief.
A narrow-minded fool may indeed, General. But of course, you are no Durak. But even as I sank towards the floor of that lost ocean, my journey was about to take me to darker, stranger territory than ever before. And it happened like this.
Ele é a história dele, né? The Chinese Roll. Muito bom, velho. Nossa. Vai ser no mínimo estranho jogar, velho, com esse peso corporal diferenciado. Cara, legal, velho. Uma gameplay debaixo d'água, não imaginava. Sério.
Let me see if I have this correctly. After narrowly failing to apprehend the mad missing explorer Tull and recapture my atomic bomb in your giant snowball, you fell through thin ice and sank to the bottom of a subterranean ocean, discovering along the way that the mind control helmet you had accidentally wedged onto your head enabled you to breathe underwater and resume your pursuit across the seabed.
É exatamente isso,
General,
pelo que
you
ele
seem
conta.
Perplexed is that the keys to my house are not where I left them. Perplexed is the fact my dog will not eat cheese like other dogs. No, Ivan Ivanovich, I am not perplexed.
Não estou pasmo. E aí, velho? Não. Velho, é pra baixo mesmo? Certeza? Ó, só vejo o caminho pra baixo. Se der merda, não me julguem, por favor. Ah, beleza.
Intrigued then, perhaps?
I'm not sure intrigued is the correct term either. Enraged at being taken for a simpleton. Now that, perhaps, is a better way of describing my current state of mind.
Cara, olha isso, mano. Olha que bonitinho. Nossa, baleia. Velho, será que é a mesma baleia? Exatamente a mesma baleia? Deve ser, né, velho? Os cavalos baleias.
Oh, that is unfortunate, General.
Once again, Comrade Privalov, I must correct you. Unfortunate is losing one's car in a snowstorm. Unfortunate is booking opera tickets on your wife's birthday and getting the date wrong.
Oh, was she furious?
That is not the issue! Furious. However, now that is a good word.
I could speak with your wife. Would that help? I
Nossa,
could
ele é muito
always
sem
have a
noção,
word
velho.
with her if you like.
I could always have you shot.
Oh, you could, but I suspect she would appreciate the gesture less.
Ai. Nossa, velho, olha isso. Ué? Ai, ele não pulou, ele não pulou. Opa, tem passagem secreta aqui? Parece que dava pra entrar na pedra. Não, não dá. Impressão minha. É, não precisava pular, aquilo ali é chão, eu tô meio desesperado, cara. Medo de falecer. Algo vai ocorrer aqui, velho. Eu sabia, velho.
A kraken. A vast monster of the sea. A giant, humongous, many-armed electrical destroyer of ships and cities.
Electrical?
Electricity flowed along its horrible body, sparking and stunning all it touched, flowing like deadly rivers along its awful tentacles.
Não dá pra ir pras laterais, velho. Então... Caraca, velho, ele não para de afundar. Imagina a pressão que deve estar ali da água, né? Mas beleza. Joguinho muito gostosinho.
A sobering discovery. Are you suggesting that the vessel simply wandered off course and sank here? That seems unlikely even by your standards.
No, General, I only wished that were true. The mighty ship showed terrible scars, signs of having been grappled and torn asunder by some huge and terrible adversary.
That is indeed strange and curious. I am troubled by this discovery.
Might you almost be perplexed, perhaps?
Don't push your luck.
Cara, o diálogo de ambos, dos dois, velho, é muito insano, cara. Eu tento acompanhar, mas tem hora, como eu tô prestando atenção no jogo, eu não consigo ler. E muito menos ouvir, né, velho? Hã? Bom, eu não vou vacilar não, porque provavelmente tem tempo. Ah, não tem, beleza. Ixi. Ai, 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 ai. Ah, eu não subi o suficiente, velho. Bora tentar de novo. Vamos ver o máximo que ele sobe. Tô com medo da bolha estourar, entendeu? Aqui, ó. Não, velho, isso não vai dar certo. Eu acho que vou ter que pular. Estoura a bolha, estoura. Aí. Agora vai, agora vai, agora vai, agora vai. Ufa. Cara, eu senti que eu ia bater ali, velho. Isso aqui é o quê?
I was stationed at Sydney Ostrif some years ago. I am only too aware of how easy it is for the imagination to create monsters when one is exposed to lonely and dark places. My men required constant monitoring.
Much like my cousin Pavel.
He was also stationed at Ostrov?
No, he required constant monitoring. He was a devil for stealing eggs.
Cara, ele viaja, velho. Eu tô louco pra saber se isso aqui vem da cabeça dele, se ele imaginou tudo isso, se isso realmente aconteceu.
I was referring to the fear that something is lurking in the darkness. Something strange,
Nossa,
brutish,
que
and
medo de estourar, velho.
ill-intentioned.
Again, that sounds much like my cousin Pavel.
Certo. Esse aqui deve ter tempo. Ai, 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 ai. Não é por aqui. Ah, esse não tem tempo, velho. Espero. Eu acho que não é ali em cima, por baixo. Nossa, achei que ia cair numa poça de veneno, não sei porquê. Nossa, muito gostosinho, velho, na moral.
Hunted. There was no doubt about it, and escape was all I could think about.
Estava sendo caçado, é foda.
That and duty.
Duty?
Yes, General. After all, I had a bomb to recover from that villain Toll.
How clever of you to remember that.
Cara, o capitão, velho, ele tá muito... O general, né? Ele tá muito incrédulo, mano. É muito engraçado isso, velho. Estoura a bolha. Estoura. Olha, ela estoura. Quando ela estoura, ainda dá pra dar um jump. Era isso que eu deveria ter feito da primeira vez ali que eu morri, sabe? Nice. Nossa. Ah, não era baleia, cara. Esse Kraken que ele falou. O avião. Vai, vai, vai. Nossa, achei que não ia dar, cara.
But first, there was the issue of escape. Escape from a dreadful, grasping creature that consumed all it could reach, dragging anything that wandered within its clutches to a miserable doom. A hoarder of useless trophies and stolen goods.
Once again, Tavarish, I suspect you are pursuing a somewhat tortuous metaphor for capitalism, in the misguided hope of appealing to my political ideals.
Eita! Caraca, velho, que susto.
I was like a mouse, General. A little mouse being toyed with by a terrible cat.
Rather a wet mouse.
I was like a little underwater mouse.
Being stalked by a giant rubbery electrical cat with 8 tentacles.
Exactly, General.
Good, I'm glad we cleared that up. You may continue.
Velho, isso aqui deveria ser dublado, velho. Cara, isso aqui dublado teria ficado muito, muito bom. Ai, velho. Cara, eu acho que eu vou de base, hein? Acho que eu tenho que pular antes. Não, não, não. Tem que pular bem antes, velho. Cara, eu acho que eu vou de base. Não. Merda. Tem que calcular a pressão. Tem que calcular a pressão do botão. Não. Tá, não é nessa ponta aqui, então um pouquinho antes dessa ponta, velho. Aqui, ó. Vai. Também não. Um pouquinho mais pra frente. Caraca, sacanagem, velho. Quando ele aparecer, quer ver? Cara, um pouquinho mais pra frente. Velho, eu vou de base, cara. Eu vou de base. Um pouquinho ainda mais pra frente, velho. Tô calculando através desse trequinho aqui no meio, esse aqui. Ai, fui de base, mano. Eu falei, velho. Ai, vamos lá. Era bem pertinho mesmo, velho. Era só dar um pulo sem apertar forte o botão, beleza. Meu querido, sobe. Muito louco, velho. Todo cenário tem praticamente a mesma coisa, mas eu acho muito bom. Nossa, será que é pra cá, velho? Isso é uma bolha, né? Nossa. Aí ele que racha o bico do nada, velho.
Submarines. You didn't mention submarines before.
Didn't I? Why? None there, General. Of course, submarines. Millions of them. Several, at least.
Any particular submarines? Did you see names? Numbers?
General, have you lost a submarine?
I am not at liberty to answer that question, as you well know.
Well, General, losing one's car in a snowstorm is unfortunate, as you say. But to lose a whole submarine, that could be considered careless.
Ele é muito ligeiro, cara. Ele parece ser burro, mas ele é muito ligeiro, velho. Nossa, muito bom.
And you are certain it was M. Deveschi Pidishat.
Well, that was painted on the hull, so I can only assume so.
I think I know where this dismal story is going next. You somehow miraculously brought the remaining closed cycle engine online, flooded the torpedo tubes, dispatched the Kraken with one shot, and triumphantly surfaced.
No, General. That is not what happened at all. I did indeed make my way to the torpedo tubes, but for a very different purpose. After all, history has taught us that atomic power is not to be toyed with.
Much like tired, impatient generals, perhaps. Particularly the perplexed ones.
Indeed, General. Or like dogs that will eat no cheese.
Ainda acho que deveria ser dublado, cara. Nossa. Eita, caraca. Nossa, o Kraken tá mandando os tentáculos dentro do submarino, velho. É lá, Abe's Odyssey. Run, run, run. Vai, vai, vai. Caraca, velho. Ele tá no míssil, velho. Não, o bicho vai apertar isso aí, velho. Nossa, agora você apertou sozinho.
Will our determined yet disorientated hero end his days as socialist sushi? Will his daring exploits be cut tragically short by vengeful calamari? Will the general's wife ever forgive him for missing Ruslan and Lyudmila? And just how many eggs did Pavel steal, and where did he keep them? All of these questions and more may or may not be answered in the next exciting episode of Little Orpheus!
Bom demais, velho. Sério. Caraca, o legal é que você termina uma fase e já, tipo, louco pra ir pra próxima, tá ligado? Cara, faltam quantas só? Uma, duas... Não, velho, para de me mostrar isso aí, cara. Uma, duas, três... Só? Não brinca. Ah, velho. Aí você me quebra as pernas, pô. Próximo... Ah, 4, né? Com esse daqui, velho. Não, fechou.
I was alive, General. Somehow, miraculously, I was alive. Some twist of fate. some hand of destiny, but
Ah, por isso
I
que eu tava
was
entendendo nada, velho.
alive.
Caraca, do fundo do mar pro deserto?
Strange as this new world was, I knew Tol must have come this way, and it was my task to find him. And it happened like this.
Até essa entradinha ainda não enjoei, velho. Eu acho que não a vi tantas vezes assim. Orpheus. Ih, tá acabando. Nossa, cara. Tá, beleza. Colado. Esse é óbvio.
The sun beat down on me relentlessly. The heat was unbearable. I was exhausted. Yet I could not stop. I had to go on. For 7 weeks I trudged across the desert. On the second day...
Please, comrade, if we may. I think we can skip the details, unless you consider them to be particularly relevant to the location of Little Orpheus.
Of course, General. We will simply omit the tale of the singing chasm, the oasis of mirrors, the sightings of Tol's Mienk aloft on their pterodactyls carrying parts of my crashed rocket drill over the horizon to Lemuria.
Wait, the what?
Singing chasm?
Not that, but the rocket drill.
Oh yes, General, the rocket drill. But
o general tá
what
caindo
did
no ponto
Tol
dele.
want with it? And why Lemuria?
Lemuria?
Lemuria, General.
I am not familiar with this Lemuria, comrade.
Comrade.
Well, that is because it does not exist, General. Or at least, so I thought.
Acho que era o tal de foguete de perfuração que ele havia falado, pô. Caraca, uma cidade? Ô, louco. Pura magia, cara. Que isso? Quero ver o general acreditar nisso agora, velho. Rochas flutuantes.
Those strange crystals seem to exert an extraordinary hold over the stone blocks and arches. When they hummed, the whole city remade itself. Whereas they were missing, clearly looted by some villainous thief, the city was fallen to ruin. It was like a vast musical instrument, vandalized, and yet still attempting to toot.
Muito bom, velho. Nossa. Achei que ele ia deslizar, não deslizou, pô.
How poetic. I am sure our engineers would be fascinated and baffled in equal measure. If the whole department hadn't been arrested for sedition last week, I would happily convey it to their skeptical ears.
Sedition, General? Really?
How poetic. I am sure our engineers would be fascinated and baffled in equal measure. If the whole department hadn't been arrested for sedition last week, I would happily convey it to their skeptical ears.
Não vai dar pra passar aqui não, velho.
Poetic. I am sure our engineers would be fascinated and baffled in equal measure. If the whole department hadn't been arrested for sedition last week, I would happily convey it to their skeptical ears.
Sedition, General? Really? That is unfortunate news indeed.
I am joking, comrade.
Ah, ele fica... Depois... Ah, ele fica subindo e descendo, ó. Não, beleza. Nossa, eu achei que ia travar ali, velho. Ó, hospiteiro. Como sempre, ele escapa de alguma coisa e cai em outra, né? Velho, esse cara deve ser um gato, tá ligado? 7 vidas, que não é possível. Certo. Vou esperar. Chupa ele.
Oh yes, the Menk were here, all right. Which meant whatever dastardly scheme Toll had, it was to be enacted on these burning sands.
And you will explain this in due course, I imagine.
Imminently, General. What you need to know first is this. I have told you already how parts of the devices the enslaved Menk were forced to wear came from the surface.
Radio parts and so on, yes, from what you have told me. Assuming there were plenty of lost ships in the ocean as you claim, for Toll to have dredged up what he needed to assemble them.
Aha! Good! You are one step ahead of me, General.
I said assuming.
Of course. Assuming. Now, as I gazed in awe at the buildings rising and falling around me, I realized that the other major component of those mind-controlling helmets was crystal. Toll had raided Lemuria for them. He knew the city. He knew the crystals could amplify vibrations and waves, and was using them to boost the signal of the radio parts to exert his control over the Menk. Which meant... Imagine what such amplification could achieve when fused to the finest atomic science our great Soviet civilization has produced.
Mano, ele é muito cara de pau, velho. Isso é muito bom.
Wait! I do not understand. You said Toll was planning on using the bomb to shatter the Earth's crust to return to the surface.
A tragic mistake, Jim. I had not recognized the extent of his mad ambitions.
You mean to imply Toll would have attempted to enslave the Russian people? Pah! The will
Eu
of
acho que ele
the
falou
Soviet
que o
citizen
Toll
is
estava
mighty and
planejando
strong.
escravizar a
To you,
cidade lá de
perhaps,
cima, né?
as a trained warrior,
Foi isso que eu
but
entendi, mas meu inglês é meio...
perhaps instead a humble son of a toy maker from Tomsk.
Ah, yes. Perhaps we have our share of simpletons, after all.
Vou subir ali. que eu tinha pulado no lugar errado.
The vast pictograms told of a history of wonders. They seem to suggest the Lemurians were travelers from another world, where a mysterious clock seemed to stand.
That is very mysterious. As mysterious as the location of little Orpheus, perhaps.
Yes, of course, General. I am just getting to that.
Bonito, hein? Bem bonito. Bom, aqui a luz deve me pegar, né? Ô, fedorento. Ah, não é por baixo, velho. Será que esse cara vira? Acho que não, hein? Ah, é, tem tempo, tem tempo. Entendi. Será que ele pula nesse daqui, velho? Acho que não, hein? Ficaria muito fácil. Não, não pula. Bingo. Sei, velho.
As I bravely explored that ancient city, a question was gnawing at my mind. What did it mean that the Lemurians had foreseen the coming of Tol? And who was the man from above that was celebrated as the savior of the Myenkf? It was almost as if they could read the future in their crystals. The bells of Lemuria tolled and tolled, a roaring symphony, a crescendo of peals that set the city dancing, each note causing the crystals to shimmer and cascade with light. But the sandstorm was no natural phenomenon, and the bells did not ring for celebration. Something was very wrong here.
Aside from the pterodactyls of the Myenkf and the dancing stones and the ancient magical prophecies and the crystals and now the giant bells, you mean?
If you don't want me to continue, General, then I can easily just quietly go home.
Don't think Chepucho will get you out of this one, comrade.
Chupa, dinossauro maledeto. Nossa, quase apertei o botão errado, velho. Não, por baixo, Nikito. Nossa. Ah, tá de brincadeira. Cara. Tá, eu tenho que chegar ali antes. Nossa. Esmagadinho. Tá, vou esperar ele quase passar. Acho que agora. Aqui, ó. Tá vendo? Tem que calcular, velho. Tem que jogar com calma. Nossa. Eu não tinha sacado isso daqui. Valeu, Orpheus. Nossa, velho. Vai.
I raced through those magical structures, a righteous fire in my heart. I was like Dobrynya Nikitsch, prepared to strike at the dragon who threatened my homeland.
Your heroism is only surpassed by your modesty.
On the contrary, General, I chose Dobrynya carefully. Like him, I am a simple peasant. It was fate that chose me to descend to the Earth's core.
It was General Komanin who chose you to descend to the Earth's core. But don't let that get in the way of your story.
Oh, well then, award General Polkovnik Kamanin the highest medal in the world.
He already has several of those.
I cannot take credit for his wisdom in sending me.
Essas partes da corda, velho, eu acho gostosinho demais. Nossa, caraca. Achei que eu ia errar, velho. Cara, fase muito gostosinha, velho. Muito legalzinha.
What was once a rocket drill ship, built to burrow into the earth, was now a mighty vessel, repurposed to blast off into the skies.
Nossa. Calma aí, cara. Calma.
There was no doubt the toll was headed for the strange world with its clock, although to what end I was yet to understand. But there was no time to consider, no time for questions.
Vai. Nossa, toda hora na ponta.
Toll was on the rocket. Little Orpheus was on the rocket. And wherever they were headed, I must head there too, to thwart his plans, recover my drill, and save the world!
Você é bravo, hein, velho? Pular um foguete decolando e segurar. Mano, ele não vai aguentar segurar, não é possível. Ah, não aguentou, velho. Tadinho, ele só se lasca, velho. Cara, muito bom, mano.
Will our enthusiastic yet disorientated hero be burnt to a cinder by the rocket's engines? Will he be smashed into the rock that surely must be beyond the Lemurian skies? Does Nikolai Petrovich Kamanin really need any more medals? What was the strange clock, and what could it all mean? All of these questions and more will be answered, if you're extremely lucky, in the next exciting episode of Little Orpheus!
Cara, da hora demais, velho. E é isso. Próximo episódio. Nice, velho. Caraca, tá quase no final, velho. Não. Cadê o capacete dele pra ele estar no espaço, velho? Hã? O cachorro.
Laika!
Laika não foi o cachorro que realmente foi enviado pro espaço?
It was Laika! I am sure of it! That spirited little dog saved me!
Laika saved you in her little space machine.
I believe the correct term is capsule, General.
Don't push your luck any further, Ivan Ivanovich. I fear it might snap.
Oh, my apologies, General. In my excitement to explain what I discovered on the far side of the Metagalacticus Interiores, I got carried away. And it happened like this.
Que loucura, velho. Vamos ver se esse mapa vai ser tão
A
da hora
rocky
quanto o
moat.
outro.
It's the center of the earth.
The source of all creation, General. A place where time flowed like rivers, and boulders of raw matter rained like comets upon the cratered rock.
Another miraculous escape from death. Another happy accident.
It was no accident, General. Laika took me there entirely deliberately. I'm sure of that. She continues to be a heroine and a savior and protector of our great nation.
Cara, esse cara, meu, na moral, velho, o que esse cara usou, velho? Muito bom, cara.
Laika died in orbit.
No, General, she did not. She's very much alive and happy, and currently living several miles below our feet.
Laika is dead, Ivan.
She most
Tem
certainly is not,
espaço
General.
dentro
This is the
do
real world.
centro da
Tovarich.
Terra.
A world where you did not go to the center of the earth, and Laika died in orbit.
In my world, General, Laika is still alive.
A better world, some may argue. Very well. I will live in your world for a while longer, but time is running out.
Ah, yes, time, General. I was just coming to that. There in the distance it stood, enveloped in a mighty time storm. The world clock, General. The beating heart of all history. The axis mundi, the pillar of the world.
Not enough to conquer Russia by drilling back to the surface with his magical mind-controlling atomic radio set then.
No, General. You see, what if he could fuse little Orpheus directly with the world clock? Then his message would radiate with every tick and every talk. He would not simply be the Tsar. He would be the Tsar of all time, the eternal tyrant, the literal incarnation of everything our glorious revolution stood to overthrow.
Contar a história, eles sabem. Ué? O relógio me puxou pra... Nossa, que brisa.
Sonikiv!
Uncanny, General. But it was somehow different. I felt no cold. The waves were motionless. Indeed, it was as if I had stepped free of those rivers of time and stood on entirely motionless ground. And there in the distance,
What?
debris from Sarya and tall slave mines had washed up here, almost as if I were meant to find it. And there, amongst it, the winking of steel led me to a blasting cap, and a plan began to form.
Nossa.
The terrain was was ferocious.
Nossa.
Explosive eruptions of fire and
Caraca,
heat.
velho, ainda apertei pra
Thunderous
trás.
emissions.
Que reflexo de minhoca.
The terrain was ferocious. Explosive eruptions of fire and heat. Thunderous emissions and lethal gases.
Much like your cousin Pavel, perhaps, as a result of consuming all of those stolen eggs.
Aha! General, you have been listening after all!
Nossa, velho, eu achei que eu ia errar o botão. Essa risada dele é muito insana, cara. Nossa. O chão é diferente de onde vai, tá vendo? Ó, ser destruído. Ah, vai dar aquele negócio de novo, ele vai ficar preso no tempo.
Agartha again? But why?
You are stalling, comrade. The clock is ticking.
Tick-tock, tick-tock! Of course! In a flash of inspiration, I understood. It was all wrong, you see, General.
That we can agree on.
We should never have gone to the center, because without little Orpheus, Toll could not have become the tyrant he had. The rocket drill was his means to reach the world clock, but it was little Orpheus that enabled him. And the time itself, the world clock itself, was determined to make matters right.
With a little help from you, of course.
Merely a simple pawn in a game played upon a cosmic scale, General. But a pawn who understood that he was being given a second chance to grab a chunk of the explosive resin that wondrous city was built upon. And I was back. The mighty river of time roared past me, carrying the weight of the whole of history with it.
Even for you, this is a stretch.
Ei,
Our
morri.
time is almost up. I have to
Ai,
submit
velho,
my
eu acho que era lá
report.
na frente, cara. Eu buguei.
The mighty river of time roared past me, carrying the weight of the whole of history
Bora.
with it.
Even for
Ali,
you,
ó.
this is a
Acho que era aqui
stretch.
embaixo.
Our time is almost up. I have to submit my report within the hour.
Time, General. Time was nearly up indeed. That ancient and magical river that carried me along was surely moving inevitably towards some kind of end.
Ai, caraca, velho. Eu vou esperar, velho. Isso aqui é fácil. Eu que me desesperei. Vai. Aí vai aparecer agora. O outro vai aparecer e vai ficar, ó. Só ir pra ponta, né, Kito? Vai, meu querido. Cara, é um mapa mais legal que o outro, velho. Esse é mais difícil, esse mapa, hein, velho. Vai. Vou perder. Ixi, será que era pra eu perder ou... Será que é ele que tava me levando mesmo? É, acho que era assim.
Enough. No more, Privalov. No more stories. No more lost worlds and space dogs. I'm full of it. It is nearly midnight, and you have not given me the adequate explanation for the whereabouts of little Orpheus and the atomic bomb.
But, General, I am about to tell you what happened when I finally caught up with the villain Toll.
I do not care, Tavarish. I simply do not care. You have worn me down, and it is time to call a halt to this. I bear you no malice, comrade. In many ways, I admire you, but time is running out.
Yes, General, yes. Time. Because it was time itself that suddenly appeared to be on my side.
Do outro lado.
Perhaps the world clock was so impressed with your
De novo ele tá
egg-wearing
achando
antics, it
isso.
decided to return you to Plutonia for a second attempt. I would strongly suggest you cut
Que da
to
hora.
the chase.
The chase, yes. The pursuit of Toll and little Orpheus. I stood there with the resin fragment in one hand and the blasting cap in the other, and then, just like that, a clock began to ring.
The world clock?
No, General, an alarm clock. My Slava alarm clock, in fact, given to me by Auntie Masha.
The one who married the beef investigator.
The very same. And the moment I saw that clock, I knew what I
descer,
had
né?
to do.
É pra descer.
Yes, I'm waiting.
A bomb, General. A bomb to destroy a bomb.
So, you decided to build a bomb, eh? A bomb to destroy little Orpheus.
It was a simple plan, really, General.
Yes, you are very fond of your simple plans.
It was the last time I was to see those poor enslaved men on my journey. As they scurried in agitation around the base of the rocket drill, now a dreadful weapon of war in the hands of a madman, I was reminded of my mother.
Your mother looked like a nymph? That is extremely disrespectful, comrade.
No, I meant I was raised by my mother from an early age, of course. My childhood memories of my father were all too brief.
You are rambling, Comrade Privalov. Time is running out. Diany Rezinovi.
Time will run out for us all, General, will it not? And it ran out for my father on the shores of Volga.
Your father fought at Stalingrad?
He did, General.
So did I.
Well, so you see, General. Perhaps we are just the same, you and I. Perhaps we are all just Menkf in the end.
Certo, qual lado? Tentar pra frente. Esse deve ser pra frente.
What possible use in the construction of a bomb could be found in the belly of a giant whale? Were you perhaps planning on using a worm as a fuse?
That would be ridiculous, General.
I would hate to undermine your otherwise entirely plausible account.
You forget, General. The belly of the beast was full of shipwrecks. And on one of them, I was bound to find what I was looking for. Fuse wire.
Comrade, yes, you'd forgotten all about the fuse until I reminded you, hadn't you?
General, your cynicism is unbecoming to a man of your rank and stature.
Ai, mais uma vez, como eu queria esse aqui do lado, velho, pra eu prestar mais atenção no jogo, porque às vezes eu tô prestando atenção no texto lá em cima, que muita coisa não pega de ouvido, cara. Cara, muito, muito legal, velho. Mas se fosse dublado, seria simplesmente fantástico.
The clock was now ticking, General. Literally. I was surrounded by time, immersed in it, floating along a river of it on a
Caraca,
raft
velho,
made of
pedra,
history.
cara. Eu sou muito dislexo, cara.
The clock was now ticking, General. Literally. I was surrounded by time, immersed in it, floating along a river of it on a raft made of history, seeking the next moment of opportunity to hurtle backwards amongst those lost worlds.
I am a patient man, Tavarish. I lost 3 toes in the winter outside Sharkovskaya in 42. A drunken dentist removed 2 frostbitten toes and 1 perfectly healthy one. You may therefore consider me a man blessed with an uncommon level of endurance for discomfort.
I hate visiting the dentist. My uncle Vanya was a dentist, and he was a deeply strange man, notwithstanding the love he felt for his pigs.
Is what?
He was a pig dentist, General. He always claimed that the human mouth presented an insufficient challenge.
Let me challenge you, comrade. You will tell me what happened to little Orpheus. My patience is exhausted. I am done.
But we are nearly there, General. The world clock was shortly to strike again and transport me... Well, who could guess where?
Pra ele ficar bem lá em cima, pra ter certeza que eu vou chegar lá, velho. Calma, quando ele começar a descer, senão eu vou bater ali, ó. Aí. Vai. Caraca, velho. Ah, dá pra controlar. Ai! Você é burro! Essa fase é mais difícil, velho. Ai, mano, não posso pular de tão alto, cara. Deixa eu ver se daqui ele vai. É, meio torto, mas vai, velho. Então vambora. Beleza, o que tá rolando agora, velho? E aí? E aí? Não, 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 não. Ah, cara, qual é, velho? Oxi! Caralho, eu comecei na pontinha já caindo. Ah, a água começa a subir aqui, velho. Água, sei lá o que é isso. Tá, beleza. Não, 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 não. Já era. Tentei ser rápido e...
so to the ocean floor, and that strange submerged city, and those poor lost vessels. To find a shell case to hold all of my scavenged ingredients, the last piece I needed to construct my bomb.
Ah, yes, I have been waiting for this.
General?
Time, Ivan Ivanovich. Whilst you have rambled on and on about it, I have simply bided mine. I am a patient man, as I have said.
Yes, I don't feel I paid enough attention to the story about your toes. Do you have specially made shoes?
Enough!
Cara, ele é muito sem noção, velho. Muito bom.
Now I have your full attention. Indulge me, Tavares. Explain to me how you made this bomb.
General?
Your bomb, comrade, that you so brilliantly constructed to destroy little Orpheus. Tell me how you made it.
Cara, muito bom, velho, na moral. Ai, caraca. Me diga como você montou essa bomba. Hã? Tipo, que bomba?
Well,
In detail. The type of detail that should present no problem to a man who is actually capable of building a bomb, which I suspect would be an entirely different man to one who cheated on his entrance exams for the cosmonaut program.
Ele colou na prova de admissão pra ser cosmonauta, cara. Eu acho que era minha gata miando, cara, dentro do jogo. Um barulho parece gato.
You are uncharacteristically silent, comrade. Cat, got your tongue?
if I may, General, perhaps just a minute or two to gather my thoughts?
There are precious few minutes left. We have reached our conclusion, I think.
Yes, we have, General. I gazed up at the world clock and knew I had arrived at my destination. Whatever lay inside would see my journey end one way or another. But I had no idea of the marvels that awaited me. And it...
The bomb, Ivan Ivanovich! Tell me how you built the bomb!
It was a wonderful sight. The world...
It is 2 minutes to midnight, Ivan. It is time to end the story.
Caraca, velho. Muito bom, cara. Muito bom, velho. Nossa. Certo. Putz, só mais 2, velho. Tá, bora pro pilar do mundo.
Let us recap. 3 years ago, you were sent to the center of the Earth as part of a top-secret mission to ensure the delivery of little Orpheus, an atomic-powered capsule. You promptly vanished until you casually wandered up to Molodiyozhnaya station 3 years later, claiming to have saved the world, but lost little Orpheus in the process. Is this correct?
Yes, General, it is, but...
You are charged with many crimes against the state, including desertion, lying to a superior officer, and sedition. Any one of these charges bears the punishment of execution by firing squad.
Pelotão de fuzilamento, velho.
General, you must be reasonable. I did my best. It's all true, I swear. I swear upon the lives of my family.
Oh, do you? Auntie Marcia and Uncle Vanya, the traveling tinker and the pig dentist, or perhaps Cousin Pavel, the criminal mastermind with the unhealthy taste for eggs. How stupid do you think I am, Comrade Devalov?
Dentista suíno foi top, cara.
Sudayu, it is all true.
Maybe your toy maker, or was it watchmaker, father, who apparently taught you all he knew, despite being killed when you were less than 5 years old.
I was a fast learner?
You have precisely 1 minute to convince me not to summon the guards and have you shot on the spot.
A minute? A lifetime. It's all I need, General.
Lá do mundo. Penúltimo episódio, só pra magoar. Certo, finalmente dentro do relógio, vamos ver, cara.
I was astounded. My father, I told you, I think I told you, he was a toy maker, and he often played with clockwork parts.
Tavares.
But this made all those childhood wonders pale into insignificance. And it was fortunate indeed that my uncle...
Vanya, the big dentist?
No, my other uncle, Sasha, had taken me mountaineering in the Urals during my childhood, for it was only by scaling these giant mechanical parts that I would reach Little Orpheus.
Yes, I had been thinking that it seems awfully convenient that you were such an accomplished climber. I don't, however, recall any mention of this Uncle Sasha in your file.
He was a very private man.
A very unlikely man.
That was Uncle Sasha's blessing and his curse.
Cara, ele tá inventando isso aí toda hora, não é possível, velho. Não faz sentido. Isso vai descer. Nossa. E agora? Qual? Certo. Nossa.
Those great wheels and cogs clashed and boomed. The vast hands of all time crunching forever and ever around.
Ivan Ivanovich.
Pendulums and springs and great big wheels and tiny little wheels.
Tavarish Privalov, stop.
Though at least the Myenk were not here, especially as they seemed to infest the world below the surface. Myenk everywhere. Myenk. Many Myenks. Myenk for plenty. Myenk.
You are babbling. Comrade, enough.
Nossa, calma aí. Cara, tá me lembrando uma fase do Donkey Kong 3, velho. Vou calcular aqui lá, né? Não vai. Agora não vai. Só no próximo. Aí. Nossa, esplêndido. Ai. Nossa, cara. Calculei muito errado. Nossa, parece que ele vai pro outro lado, mas ele, tipo, engana por causa da perspectiva.
But where was Toll? Aha! High above, on the clock face, perhaps, with
Agora.
his radios and his
Ai,
crystals.
nossa, velho, que vacilo, dá pra
Just
passar
reach
direto.
him. But
Vai.
where was Toll? Aha! High above, on the clock face, perhaps, with his radios and his
Que
crystals.
dó, velho.
No, if he could just reach him, I could use the bomb.
There is no bomb. You have no idea how to make a bomb. You have no idea about how to do anything one might actually expect of a cosmonaut.
The bomb?
Ivan Ivanovich!
General?
Time
E agora?
is up.
E agora, velho?
Stop talking, Tavarish. You don't know what happens next. It is obvious. You've done very well. I applaud you for your efforts and your story. It is a wonderful tale, Comrade Privalov. I have enjoyed it immensely. But every story needs an ending. And it is clear yours does not have one.
I just need more time.
I think that even if I gave you all the time in the world, it would not be enough.
No, General. I can do this. That is, I remember what happens next. I just need to catch my breath and compose myself.
We both know how this story ends, comrade.
But little Orpheus, you haven't heard what happened.
Será que ele vai comer esse general?
We will find out soon enough. You will be executed, and another expedition will be sent.
No, you cannot. You cannot. We must never go back. You don't understand.
Make me, then. Make me understand. I am a kind man, although you may not believe this. I do not want to have you shot. So help me. Make me understand. Tell me what happened to little Orpheus.
It was.
Ivan Ivanovich?
It was. It was. No. I'm sorry, General. I'm sorry, I have no idea.
Vixe.
You are right. I simply cannot think what happened next. It's just a blank, General. There's nothing there. I am very tired, you see.
Comrade Privalov. Ivan.
You're right. It's over, General. Perhaps you would be so kind as to write to my mother for me.
Of course I will.
You are a kind man, as you have said. And, General,
Yes, Ivan.
was it a good story?
Oh, yes. It was an excellent story.
Thank you,
É, pior que foi
General.
mesmo.
I'm just sorry I couldn't give you an ending.
Unless...
General?
Quiet, Tovarish. I am thinking. Unless... I seem to remember that there were many problems with little Orpheus during production.
General?
Problems with the casing around the atomic battery. Concerns.
Concerns, General.
Yes, concerns. Unlikely though that might be. Yeah, it seems if I remember that it failed to secure properly. A sharp blow could spring the hatch and expose the fragile casing of the bomb to any would-be vandal.
I'm not sure I follow.
A resourceful yet forgetful hero might, one would think, take advantage of that fact.
But how, General? Where would I find something to strike it with?
The son of a watchmaker would easily find something within a giant clock mechanism that resembled
Ele tá
a hammer,
ajudando, cara.
surely.
Como assim?
Why, yes, General. I do remember now. I grasped the hammer-shaped
velho.
thingamabob.
Let's just agree it was a hammer, Ivan.
Yes, of course. Let's do that. I recovered my senses, shook my head, and looked about me. In my distracted stupor, I had climbed further up the tower than I ever thought possible. In front of me was the clock face, and I gazed out through it at the sheer expanse of history. And I knew whatever happened next... happened next?
The hand of destiny had fallen upon your shoulder.
Yes! It had. And what an extraordinary hand it was.
Que viagem, velho. Cara, nem lascando, velho. Qual é, velho? Mano, isso aqui é o cúmulo, cara. Olha isso. E o mais da hora é que o general ajudou, né, velho? Cara, muito bom. Será que eu fiz merda? Ai, fiz merda, cara. Ah, velho, qual é? Que aparece caindo, segunda vez isso. Ah, meu controle tá puxando, velho. Não, velho. Ai, ai, viu?
And so, Toll was defeated. Little Orpheus destroyed, the bomb lost forever.
Not just that, General. In that moment, time sprung back to its proper shape, and I found myself once more in Plutonia, as the start of my journey. But the wound in the interior sky was gone. The drill was gone. It was as if I had never been here. And they were nymph, free and happy, without the tyranny of Toll, free to pursue their simple lives.
But we can never go back?
Never, General. One drill, one metal sphere, one lone cosmonaut was nearly enough to destroy time and unleash the tyrant Toll upon our world. Who would think an innocuous beeping radio housed in a ball of metal could change the world so dramatically?
Who indeed? But tell me, what of you? And what of your return to the surface?
I stayed amongst the Mienk for as long as I could. But I came to realize they had begun to worship me as a king. No, General. I am a good socialist and could not allow this workers' paradise to become corrupted. And so I left that wonderful land for the last time.
And then?
And then I walked. For 2 years I wandered, always looking for a way home, through lands and worlds almost beyond imagination. Until one day I emerged, blinking into sunlight, and realized I was home.
Until one day I emerged, just like that? You just found your way back to the surface?
Well, General, it was a little more complicated than that. There were great obstacles to overcome and terrible challenges to face and incredible lands to explore.
Enough, Ivan. Little Orpheus is lost forever. The interior is sealed. You have returned with a story of socialism, triumphing over incredible odds. It is, as I said, enough for one night. Enough for my report, at least.
General, if I may...
Comrade Ivan Ivanovich Privalov, you are found guilty of all charges brought against you and sentenced to execution by firing squad. However, having listened to your story, I believe you are quite mad. In other words, I find your madness guilty, not you. And we cannot execute madness. And indeed, there are lessons to be learned, even in the depths of this madness. Perhaps the Americans were right to send a chimp after all.
So, General?
Get out of my sight, Ivan. Go home. Enjoy a state pension as a madman. Just make sure I never see you again.
Yes, General. Of course, General. Anything you say. I shall be small and quiet and live a life without excitement and...
Out! Until one day I just emerged.
Ele adorou a história.
Very good, Tavares. Very good indeed.
Nossa, velho. Muito bom, velho. Pô, mas tinha mais um mapa, cara. Como assim? Tinha mais um mapa. Acho que vai ter mais um mapa sim, velho. Ó o cachorro. Laika foi pro espaço do nada, ela tá no centro da Terra. Uma onda de... Quê? Uma onda de cebola pra cabeça? Quê? Será que é tipo uma fase bônus?
Who's the best space dog? Oh, dia moja хорошая, хорошенькая моя, ты просто космическая. Eh? Who's the best hairy cosmonaut? It is indeed a lovely sunset, and it reminds me of the skies of Peru. I didn't? I never told you about the wonderful Sky City? Well, it was an extraordinary place, but one filled with dangers. Well, it might have been simple for you to cross it, but you were in a space capsule. I had to rely on my own 2 feet, my noshki. Feet which, I might add, had just crossed the interior, beaten the villain Toll, and helped inspire the Myenk to a workers' revolution. Oh, that's all very easy for you to say, but your idea of civilized behavior is licking your own bottom in public. No. My adventures above the clouds were filled with untold dangers, death-defying escapes, and some really quite extraordinarily large Bielorybitsa. And it happened like this.
Tomara, velho. Tomara que seja legal. Little Orpheus. É mais ou menos assim que eles falam. Uma onda de cebola pra cabeça. É isso, né? Foi isso? Acho que sim. Bora lá.
Weeks had passed since I left Plutonia, and one evening, exhausted, I simply fell asleep at the foot of a strange windmill. And when I awoke, well, that thought didn't cross my mind. I was exhausted after all. This is beside the point, my nosy canine friend. What matters is this. When I awoke, the windmill and the ground around it had been carried high into the air. What magic was this? Что за магия? As unlikely, perhaps, as a suitcase-sized dog orbiting the center of the Earth for many years. Quite.
Caraca, eu fiquei lendo o diálogo lá em cima e nem prestei atenção no jogo.
Flash, Kakmonia, my training leapt into play, and I began to paddle the strange contraption through the clouds in search of answers. It is entirely possible that a miller who owns a windmill capable of levitating high into the air may also own a flying machine. Oh, now you're just being silly. May I continue my recounting of how I sailed over the sky gardens towards the mystical city of Peru? Oh, I must, my mój uszaty drug. I must.
Esse aqui é tipo um capítulo extra. Bacana, velho. Cara, eles poderiam lançar o 2, né, velho? Cara, seria muito bom, velho.
What powerful emanations! What mighty gusts! What an epic schwall! They reminded me of Cousin Pavel, yes! But whereas his rearward zephyrs could curdle milk and tarnish the teaspoons, these magical wafts only serve to carry me aloft and onwards.
Bom, lá em cima tá marcando pra cima, né? Será que é isso? Certo, então vento pra cima. É isso? Exato.
But something was afoot in the gardens of Peru. This horrid muck staining the surfaces and making my nose curl. Yes, it was positively Pavelian in scent. But it did not belong here. I think I once told you of Auntie Masha's passionate encounter in a cable car with the manganese entrepreneur from Chiatura. Now, Auntie Masha told me that there was a disagreeable stain and smell all around those factories and smelting works. Our industry is not without its dangers. Could it be that the once bucolic gardens of Peru were being corrupted by unchecked pollution? After all, science is a double-edged sword, my bristly confidant. Consider Demikhov. Of course. I apologize. Прошу прощения. Two-headed dogs is perhaps a rather insensitive analogy, but not without justification in this instance. I have seen the blemished lands around Norilsk, but I could not believe that I would find such pollution here. But this was nothing to the true horror of what was shortly to unfold.
Até o cachorro gosta da imaginação dele, velho. Afinal, quem não gosta, né, velho? Cara, muito bom, velho, muito bom. Deixa eu ver pra baixo, qual é que é? Nossa. Que isso, velho?
That terrible, straszная machina, spewing its poison into the air, had created a monstrous thing. A being. A malignant spoiler of the noble and pure, and it had taken on the form of its prey. Well, of course. No, конечно, I was the prey. The citizens of Peru had clearly long since fled the evilly sentient smog, but I inadvertently wandered into its lair. Oh, I know. Misfortune seemed to dog... Oh, sorry, I do apologize. To follow my every footstep. But no time to ponder. No time to bemoan the hand that fate had dealt me. No. All that was on my mind was escape, конечно.
Aqui é pra baixo, né? Beleza.
Yes, it was most interesting. The windmill seemed to be from an earlier age. Perhaps this was a devastating warning of the destructive power of unfettered industrialization. I most certainly had not forgotten about the windmills. I did not get carried away. You are missing the point. Perhaps because you are only a small dog. Oh, a brilliant, brave, spacefaring dog, of course, but a small Sabashka nonetheless. If you perhaps listened more and interrupted less, I am just getting to the explanation of the windmills.
Ah, você tá de brincadeira, velho. Que susto.
My stinky nemesis was back.
E agora,
But more interesting was the change in the city. The windmills were fading out, clearly obsoleted, mothballed, relics. Instead, a sense of an obsession with
O
power.
vento apaga ele.
Vast engines, terrible machines, ever hungry and reliant on the rapid consumption of fuel, the production of toxic fumes and choking gases. Pride, my pushisti compadre, pride, ambitia, ambition, the dark side of science. Zemechov's had too many. Don't be ridiculous, dog. Only a durak with the intellectual capacity of a ringworm would think windmills are in any way harmful.
Cara, sabe o que tá me lembrando isso aqui, velho? O BioShock Infinite. A cidade flutuante lá, velho. Nossa. Ué. Ah, tá, eu vim de baixo, verdade, velho. Tava tentando entender o porquê. Ah, aqui é o limite. Opa, não. Ah, sobra um espacinho pra gente conseguir voltar, ó. Vai. Ai, caraca. Ah, velho, eu demorei muito, cara, pra ativar. Vai. Eu achei que ele ia me pegar de novo. O negócio fez até eco, velho.
Of course, you never had much of a chance to travel. Sarcasm doesn't suit you. You don't have the tail.
Nossa, velho.
You do, at least, have a tail. Mind you, family gossip maintained that so did Uncle Rabliem. Although it was apparently little more than a stub, and a source of considerable discomfort and social anxiety for him. The question of whether or not Uncle Rabliem wagged his stub is very much off topic. What I am trying to say is that your upbringing on the streets of Moscow meant you never saw the blackened fields of Magnitogorsk. The sacrifices made by the valiant citizens of that industrial heartland, as they drowned in their own blight, even as they powered the state forwards. I was reminded of Magnitogorsk as I wandered through those fields of pipes and foundries. And I wept for the loss of innocence that so often goes hand in hand with progress.
Na hora que mudou a atmosfera ficou feio, porém ficou interessante pra caraca, velho. Ah, é lógico, né? Nossa, ele com a perna machucada, cara. Pula balão, pula balão, pula balão.
Indeed! I just evaded the slimy, oily grasp of that man-made Vadzinoi, his petroleum stink clogging my nostrils and making my head thump. And I felt a great stirring within me. Yes, much like I assume Cousin Pavel. May he never get loose again. But no, quite different. This was no volcanic upbubbling of gastric malintent. No, it was the roaring fires of justice once more ignited within me. I felt a swell of patriotic fervor and knew the hand of destiny had fallen on me once more. Yes, what a hand it was! I could not see this great wonder sink into an abyss of poison and bile. The Perunians may have been forced to abandon their city, but I had saved the world once before and was ready to answer the call again. What strange metal Bielaribitsa clearly designed to swim through the air? I was amazed. And there was more. Beneath the fins, I spotted the apertures of hoses and was reminded of the time Auntie Agrafina devised a contraption.
Fico lendo o texto, velho, eu esqueço do game, cara.
Algae beds simultaneously with one flush of the toilet by a system of pipes and valves that ran throughout her house. Можно так сказать, in a manner of speaking, yes. Her algae were most irrigated, although her neighbor Victor was washing his trousers in the sink at the time and was bruised quite severely about the face and body. But these were no ordinary flying metal fish. They were designed to expel air, fresh air, and push back the polluted clouds.
Bem que ele teve uma boa ideia, né, velho? Bora, amigão. Vai que tem tempo, né, velho? Deixa eu dar um pulinho. E se eu pulasse pra lá? Eu ia cair na nuvem de veneno, beleza. Deixa quieto, velho. Deixa quieto.
There is, of course, a fine tradition of looking to nature to solve problems of a scientific or military persuasion. Yes, as you well know. My nephew, Sergei... Yes, the very same. Poor lad with his dermatological eruptions. Well, Sergei was stationed recently at Kazachya Buchta, where dolphins... dolphins were being trained as brilliant aquatic agents of
Eita,
socialism.
caraca, peraí.
Why not
E agora,
then be inspired
mano,
by
eu
marine
vou falecer,
life?
velho.
Why, there is a fish
Ele desce devagarzinho, né?
that can shoot jets of water from
Tá,
beneath
pera.
the surface
Tem que ir pro
to
outro lado
knock its
primeiro.
prey off little tiny twigs
que
and
abrir aquilo
into
ali.
its mouth. If you were to tell the average mushroom sheriff that a dog would orbit the earth, I suspect you would receive a similarly sneering response. No, that is because you are a small, hairy hound of uncertain parentage. I, on the other hand, am a cosmonaut, the product of many months of training, and I realized the answer to pollution was here all along. The Peronians, tragically, had simply never had time to finish their fleet. If only I could find a working, flying fish. If only. If only. Yes. If only.
Oh. Calma. Isso.
It made perfect sense, of course. The poisonous Duhatas that engulfed Perun was like a nasty cold. And you know what to do with a cold to rid yourself of it. You may not get colds, but nor can you operate pea-shelling machinery. So, don't get ideas above your station. We humans, on the other hand, may produce up to 16 million perfectly unshelled peas in an average shift. But we are martyrs to our sinuses. But to clear them, aha! These are remedies we Russians have been perfecting over the long centuries of harsh winters. Onions. A quick snifter of onion oil will clear your head faster than a Pragviev can clear a hypothetical minefield. Yes, if I could find a functional fish, I would become that onion.
Ai, caraca. Que vacilo, velho. Fui olhar a stream, a gravação. Caraca, no exato momento que eu fui olhar a gravação, velho. Ô, melequinha. Acorda, Nikito. Acorda, Nikito. Ih, lascou. E aí? Tá, precisa abrir aquilo ali. Eles têm tempo? Acho que não, né? Fica aí, não descarrega não, velho. Nossa. Ah! E com a perna de novo zoada, cara. Não.
I was close. I could feel it. Yes, the working fish, the ribka. I could feel I was at the heart of Perun, and my noxious pursuer had renewed its chase with a terrible vigor.
Isso aqui é de tempo, né?
Not far now. I just had to keep going, keep pushing. It's almost as if you knew, Pavel. Uncanny. Double tipped.
Nossa.
There she was. A beautiful sight. Her scales shimmering in the sunlight, her fins poised for action, her onion cannons primed for a great aerial conflict unseen in the annals of human endeavor. And you are just jealous it was a bigger flying machine than yours. No, Peleus Pow. It was time for science to fight back. Yes, my hairy compatriot. Ayachale, onwards to victory!
Lá vamos nós, velho. Cara, eu vou jogar de teclado e mouse, porque meu controle, ele... Cara, ele tá muito sensível, velho. Ele vai muito pra cima ou muito pra baixo. Aí, ó, bem melhor, velho. Ah, legal, agora tem rainha no meio da tela. Isso é... O cara não leva dano, vai destruir. Ah, eu poderia ter ficado no meio, mas vai saber, né? Será que vão ser 3 vezes? Que tá ficando mais difícil as pedras, ó. Vem, bonitão. Caraca, o bicho não morre, velho. Ah, velho. agora tá difícil. Esse roteiro é muito bom, velho. Sério.
It was a miracle. I found myself swooping through beautiful, clear skies. The strange interior sunlight gleaming on the sides of my fishy vessel.
Cadê a tradução?
I heard birds clear their little throats and begin their wondrous gvalt. The wind gently humming on the fins. And then, all of a sudden, under it all... Well, you see, in my hurry, it didn't even occur to me to check how much fuel was carried in the strange craft. With a horrible splutter, the engines choked and died. And suddenly we were plummeting downwards towards our doom.
Ah, tinha que ter a tradução, velho. Aí sim.
I did not. A simple mistake that many have made. Why, my Aunt Agrafina met her untimely demise being late for a fungal sculpting seminar and making exactly the same error. Only, unfortunately, it left her stranded in sub-zero temperatures just outside Pravachitsinsk. She wasn't found until 18 years after her own funeral, but was perfectly preserved. Remarkable, really. It is beside the point, yes. So, there I was. My fabulous ship had become a terrible prison. I was hurtling to my almost certain death. My triumph turned to tragedy. But then... Well, you know what happened next. Even so, moi magnati drug, that is a story for another time. A most extraordinary story, of course, filled with dangers and wonders, and canals, and invasions, and strange doorways to other worlds. But perhaps too long a story for now. Yes, indeed, my canine tavarish. Time for soup. Auntie Agrafina's famous borscht. Coming.
Agora acabou.
You know, I think you really did have the happier time in Peru. The benefits of being a suitcase-sized dog in a little space machine, perhaps. Yes, the correct term is indeed capsule, as I told the general once. Why, a letter just the other week? He's thinking of retiring, he says. Yes, and moving to Bashkiria to nurture bees. Bees? It surprised me too. I thought if animal husbandry was to be his passion, it would be a large, manly animal like elk, or bears, or a caban. Perhaps the bees he is thinking of are particularly militaristic. Or stingy, yes. Did you want bread with your soup? In which case, there's half a tin of old beef you could also finish. Somewhat grey, but I'm sure it won't taste awful. Yes, my four-legged associate. Now, did I ever tell you the story of when Uncle Rablien got his stub ensnared in the seat of a wicker chair in the finest fish restaurant in the whole of Taliatsy?
Muito bom, velho. Então, membros do canal aqui na tela, obrigado de coração aí. Espero que vocês tenham curtido tanto quanto eu esse game, cara. Eu curti demais. Cara, a gente ultimamente joga muito FPS e joguinhos online, tipo MOBA. Cara, é bom ver um jogo side-scrolling. Por mais que não seja novidade, eu sei que já tinham lançado esse jogo aí há 1 ano, 2 anos atrás, mas agora que veio pro PC, cara, muito top, muito top. Então, piquezeira aí na tela. Outros canais do tio aí na descrição e vejo vocês aí nas próximas gameplays. Valeu, falou e até breve.